Welcome, everyone, to the latest installment of Connex's Emerge Town Hall. We're very pleased to welcome our guest moderator today, Chief Operating Officer for FEXA, Kim Goy. Kim?
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks, Connex, for having me. It's great to be here. As you all know, I'm a board member of Connex. I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues, which I'll introduce in a moment. But a little bit about myself. I grew up from the retail side, spent many years with retail and operations, and also spent some years on the service provider side. And I'm really happy to have found myself at FEXA. FEXA is a facilities management software package that makes it easier for multi-site operators and service providers to get quality work done more efficiently and more cost effectively, while also preparing you for the future. And the future is a lot of what we're going to talk about today, some of the trends of things that we're experiencing today, but also how we're preparing for the future. Before we dive into our program, though, I'd love to introduce our esteemed fearless leader of Connex, CEO Bill Yannick. Bill, you want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah, hi everyone. For I think it's our fourth town hall. It's going to be the best town hall yet, to put the pressure on to Kim and our panelists. But thank you so much for participating. We certainly appreciate Kim and our panelists who are going to enlighten us in just a moment. And we do these monthly. And for audience out there, we really appreciate your participation to keep us all connected. Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, sounds good. So Bill, I'm going to go a little off book here and pull out my coin.
Oh.
You owe me a drink from last time I did this, so I'm kind of trying to wrap up those. Oh, shoot. All right. Well, I didn't want to warn you because I wanted that drink, so now you owe me 2 drinks.
I owe you 2. All right. No.
All right. So jumping into the program, I'm really excited to introduce you to my esteemed Connex board colleagues that are joining the panel discussion today. Grant Baker, who's president of Authority HVAC, Mariah Kingen, who's the portfolio director for DaVita Kidney Care, and Steve Andrews, who's vice president of centralized facilities at Public Storage. I'm going to ask each one of you, if you don't mind, starting with you, Grant, to share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. So my name is Grant Baker. I'm the co-founder of Authority HVAC. I've been in real estate services for most of my career. I started the company with my business partner in 2006. My earliest memory of Connex or / Prism was renting a booth for $3,000 and getting it onto the show floor. And I'm not sure anybody stopped by for 72 whole hours, but we've grown a lot since then. It's been really exciting. We provide national and self-perform services to national multi-sites. And I joined the board 2 years ago as an alternate. And now I'm in my second year as the third year term on a 3-year term as the board. And 2020 has just been like a year where I've been incredibly proud to be part of this industry. It's been insanely tough watching what people in our industry have had to go through on the professional side of things, and the fortitude that I've witnessed around my industry peers has really been incredible. So 2020 has been a year that I'd like to forget, but I'm going to remember it for just the impressive showing I've seen by a lot of people around the industry.
Yeah, that's awesome, Grant. We'll get a little bit deeper into some of your sentiments too, but how the community has really helped all of us throughout this year of 2020, and specifically the Connex community. So thanks, Grant. Mariah?
Hey, Kim. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm Mariah Kingen. I am the portfolio director over here at DaVita Kidney Care Centers, where we give life to our patients. And I have been in and around the Connex Association for over 20 years in the industry, and some of you may know me as the immediate past chair of the association, finishing up my 4th year here as an advisory role to the board, which is really exciting. And I sure do miss being up on stage and getting to say hi to everybody at the annual conference. So I guess this is a close second to be able to be here with everybody. And really excited to stay connected to the entire Connex community this way and through these town halls. So thanks, Bill and team, for hosting those. So thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, we miss you too on stage, Mariah. I think we're all excited to see you and others on stage again in person soon. So thanks so much. And finally, last but not least, Steve Andrews.
Thanks, Kim. So I am a 20-year veteran in the facilities industry, across several multi-site locations, several years. Currently with Public Storage, I've been here for about a year and a half. We've got 2,500 locations across the country. My responsibility is a handful of trades that we've centralized. Typically, our operations control the majority of repairs, but a small group of trades centralize and are responsible for that. Definitely interesting year with COVID. Glad to be part of the association. This is my third year on the board, and to echo Grant and Mariah, it's been an interesting, great year to be on board. Thanks.
Awesome. And before we move on, I would be remiss if I didn't mention we are missing one of our colleagues, David Hughes from Walgreens. David unfortunately could not join us today. So we're sending David our best, and he's given us our blessing to proceed without him. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the first question. Before I do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. This is an interactive session. We would love for all of you in the audience to engage with us. If you've got questions for the panel, any discussion points you'd like to mention, please use your Q&A box in the Zoom. We'll be addressing those throughout the program. And if you've got a specific person that you're addressing the question to, please go ahead and notate that as well. So first question, and I'm going to direct this to Grant first. What are your biggest priorities and goals today and also in the upcoming year?
Well, the timing of that question is interesting. For the last 6 months, I think my primary goal was to not die. I didn't want to die. So I've achieved that. I didn't want my employees to die or my family members to die. So I've managed to achieve that. And I wanted to make sure that we didn't go out of business, and we've managed to achieve that. So that was actually kind of more of a pass-fail type of goal than, grade on a curve, so to speak. Now it feels like the ground is firming up underneath us a little bit. I think as a company and maybe as an industry, we're starting to just adapt to whatever this is that we're in. And now we're kind of really finally to think strategically again and how we build around what this industry might look like for the next 4 or 5 years. So it's created an enormous amount of opportunities. In other ways, it's really kind of reinforced the things that I think we're good at, which is building culture and understanding customer service and communication and things like that. I mean, the more things have changed a lot, but some of the old-fashioned stuff has stayed really relevant.
I agree. And also just speaking from a fellow supplier's standpoint, I think there was a little bit of nervousness there, right, Grant? Certainly the death is, it was hard not to laugh at that because, and it's clearly not funny. We're in a very serious pandemic and there are people dying, but the reason why I think it was almost like a release, sort of like that felt good to say that out loud, because that is sort of how it felt there, and how we all continue to feel, and why safety has been really of the utmost importance for all of us. But as from a fellow supplier perspective, we've certainly taken this as an opportunity to evaluate, right? And evaluate the things that we're doing, and sort of use those silver linings of the pandemic, of the things that we can't control. So that's great. Thanks so much, Grant.
Yeah,
Mariah, I'd love to hear your thoughts as far as what your priorities are this year.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kim. And Grant, thanks for stepping up first to give us your answer. So, for me, being newer to healthcare, I've really been focused on traditional retail multi-site for most of my career. So coming into healthcare, I've had to reset, my internal ideas and goals as I've moved through my kind of short tenure with DaVita here over the last 2 years. But this year in particular, our goal is to give life to our patients, and that's through dialysis treatment, typically in clinics. And so from the healthcare standpoint, it's really even more critical, to Grant's point, to not die. That's our day to day is to make sure that our patients and our teammates locally are safe. And so doing that from a facility and maintenance, physical plant standpoint is really pretty critical for us. So whether it's cleanliness, whether it's, taking care of roof leaks, or trying to make sure that Sally's not knocking down our doors from the hurricane. I just got off a hurricane call just a few minutes ago. and trying to make sure that everyone is very safe and secure and taken care of. One of the challenges and or opportunities that we've had from this standpoint is that we've actually had to extend our hours to help treat the COVID positive patients. And so unlike, my retailer partners, we were not able to close down. And in fact, we had to staff up during the pandemic. And that's been a big change and big priority difference for us to meet our goals. And so those are some of the opportunities that we've had, and so the goals that we've had to accomplish is how do we continue to treat during this really challenging time.
And over the course of the next year, Mariah, do you see that continuing? I mean, certainly everybody's talking right now about 2021, but even most folks are talking about 2022, right? Understanding that 2021 is still very much going to be affected by the decisions that we've made now. And we don't have an end in sight necessarily, as much as we want one. So are those initiatives, like, for example, extended hours, additional cleanings, those kinds of initiatives, are you planning for those over the course of even 2022?
Yeah, we're not stopping. Our protocols are ever evolving, but we definitely have shifted to this new way of providing care for our patients, and whether that be extended hours or change in hours. And cleaning protocol variances and things like that. There's kind of no end in sight, if you will. So we're just going to continue to trudge forward and do the best for our patients. And as new guidelines come out, we're highly focused on healthcare guidelines and CDC guidelines. So we want to make sure that we're being at or ideally above those guidelines.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. And Steve, any insight from you as far as your goals and now and over the coming year?
Sure. So, it was interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I pulled out the strategic plan that I presented to the leadership team here at Public Storage, and that was the end of last year, beginning of this year, and the goals that I had wanted to accomplish for my team. And so I dusted that off and quickly realized that we haven't accomplished any of them. This year has definitely caused us to change direction and shift courses. Right now, we're focused on supporting our partners out in the field from an ops perspective, and some of the things that we wanted to try to centralize that and take things off of ops plate. While it sounds like a good idea even right now, right, because they're so focused on just trying to stay safe, we thought that was too disruptive. So we've kind of just been staying the course and really just supporting our ops folks. While we're not traditional retail, we do have some nuances that are a little different for us. So in some of our legacy properties, we've got apartments where the manager would typically live while they ran that apartment, and we've got air conditioning systems that connect the apartment and the office. As we've tried to save money over the years and not put two systems in, we've had one system. So my team's been involved in situations where we have to split those systems apart and get everyone safe. So safety is really what my team's been focused on to help support the ops folks. And going into next year, that really is, for the foreseeable future, that's kind of the course that we're going to maintain.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. That is a unique situation because you've got a resident. All of us are used to dealing with commercial requirements, but clearly
Right.
With residential, that adds a layer of complexity there. Thanks, Steve. So we have a question that's very related to the discussion that we're having now from our friend Tom Kay. Hi, Tom. So specifically for the operators, COVID and its impact on multi-site business and facilities maintenance is unquestionable. How are you stack ranking or re-evaluating capital projects that were once in the queue but now been pushed or put on hold indefinitely? And related to that, what are your top 2 to 3 project initiatives for the remainder of 20 to 21? Steve, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, I'll take that. So specifically to the storage industry, the direction we've been given and the position we're taking from a CapEx perspective is really trying to preserve our CapEx and reprioritize our projects. We believe that the end of this year and the beginning of next year, is going to be ripe for acquisition. So we want to make sure that we've got as much capital that the company may need to take advantage of those acquisitions and grow even in this current environment. So really my team, we would typically go into budget meetings and present projects, and we've really been reevaluating the ROI on each one of those projects individually and just the overall amount of capital that we're spending, and we're really focused on the needs versus the wants. So, you know, if we can sweat a piece of equipment or a system another year, we're in that mindset where we're doing that right now, whereas we might take advantage of the company's ability and to replace that equipment now, you know, before it actually dies. So really our focus is more needs versus wants right now.
Hey,
Yeah.
Kim, I've got an anecdote to add to that if you
Sure.
want. So we had an interesting last 2 or 3 weeks on the HVAC side where manufacturers were almost completely out of product and the production lines were backlogged. Lead times that might be 1 or 2 weeks or suddenly 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks. And the feedback that we're getting is the manufacturers just being really conservative in terms of how much product they're putting out there. And so it's going to leave everyone in a tough spot because cash is going to be king, probably for every chain that's out there. But it's probably worth knowing that if you're leaving a lot of junk on your roof and you're not doing at least a few things proactively, that you could be in a really hard spot in July and August next year.
Yeah, really good insights there, Grant. Thanks so much. Mariah, do you have anything to add as far as capital projects and what your top priorities are?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I'm probably in a slightly better position than a lot of my other multi-state partners, being that we are still in a little bit of a growth mode and have some of these other shifts and patient priorities. While there was a slowdown for sure during the initial impact of COVID and, you know, March and April, there was travel restrictions. Now that the travel restrictions are opening up and construction has been deemed as a necessary activity in most states, we've been allowed to go in and actually do the larger capital construction projects that we had slated for the year. So we're actually full steam ahead trying to get through our process and get our capital projects done. And then we've also been allocated a little extra expense dollars as well, being that the company saved a little bit on travel and meetings in person and things like that. And so our goal right now is to actually get in to the clinics where possible and be able to provide those upgrades or updates needed or fix those things that are maybe in the backlog so that we have these very positive environments for our patients to treat. So a little different maybe than some of my other more traditional retail multi-site partners out there.
Yeah, certainly industry specific, right? And it's not necessarily just essential businesses versus non-essential businesses from what we've found. It's very specific to the health of the company. And as Steve mentioned, you know, acquisition being a target for public storage, you know, how responsible has the company been historically? Has it really boded for their success post-pandemic? So that's great. So thanks for your insights there, folks. I have another question, which is great. Thank you. Thank you to the audience. Keep these questions coming. We have a question from M. Buck. She's with National Electric and she provides electrical services to retailers. And she has a question for Steve and Mariah around the best way to getting added to your vendor list for future projects. Now, this has come up with a lot, and I'm sure the supplier community of Connex is sort of really wanting to understand what your priorities are, how there could be potentially be an opportunity to help you. You know, in our experience, we've talked to some of our customers, and our customers, it's kind of across the board, but the majority of our customers say we're sort of staying the path right now with what we have, and we're being reactive in onboarding vendors that maybe need to fill a gap of a vendor, let's say, that wasn't so lucky as Authority HVAC, couldn't necessarily service our locations, and more of a reactive mode. What are your thoughts there? And actually, I'll start with you, Mariah, this time, as far as you know, sourcing new vendors. Is there a need? Is that a priority for you? How do you decide when to onboard vendors, and how do they go about working with you potentially? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mariah. Did I not specify that? My apologies.
Wasn't sure if that was the Steve or me first, so thanks. Yeah, it's an interesting time right now because there's a lot of conflicting priorities, I guess, especially for us, directors and managers of our teams. And so, honestly, for me, onboarding new people is probably at the bottom of my priority list, except when a need comes up. I also have a different, kind of portfolio management process where we actually utilize a third party person to come in and help us with that subcontracting.
Yeah.
So, I think the best, one way to keep yourself relevant, I think, with this community is to use the chat and community, contact features through Connex, through the website, and really make sure that you present yourself out there. I've also seen some of my peers reach out into that community as well and say, hey, I'm looking for X, Y, or Z, or who's got some recommendations. And, and so being a part of that community conversation is always a good thing to do. And being, an active participant in Connex. I would also say it's not harmful to send an email. I probably wouldn't send 14 emails, but send an email to us, and when we have a moment, we can respond. I'm typically pretty good about responding to say, hey, I don't have a need right now, or maybe I do, contact me back in 6 months. But I would just say be patient with us. If you do send a communication and we don't respond right away, it's not an affront to you. It's just that we probably have a lot of conflicting priorities. So, Steve, I don't know if you've got anything different to add to that.
So I will echo your sentiment about being patient. So yes, that isn't typically on the top priority, responding to new vendors, unfortunately, and I'm just being very, very transparent. I'll say that my situation is probably a little unique compared to some of the other multi-sites out there, whereas at Public Storage and most of the storage industry, a lot of the maintenance is decentralized. So like I mentioned before, I'm only responsible for a handful of trades. So your opportunity with me is going to be very limited to something specific. And typically those are trades that are less generic and more specialized, like elevators and HVAC, those types of things. So my situation is a little unique compared to other multi-sites, but my advice would be reach out, be patient, and as the vendors that I've formed relationships with over the years can tell you that good things come to those who wait. So just be patient.
Yeah, that's great advice, Steve. Grant, do you want to chime in as far as, have you been in tune with some of your sales team's efforts, and maybe has this discussion come up internally as far as, establishing new relationships and so forth?
Yeah, the age-old question, right? That's a question that never comes up.
Give us a magical answer, Grant.
Right. I'm trying to think of something unique. Well, it's so we were really hard on our existing customer base and making sure that those guys are absolutely taken care of. And we've been very protective of those relationships. I think we're always protective of them. We're really protective of them in 2020. It feels like there's been a lot of chains that have gone through restructurings in 2020, and there's been staff changes and there's been decision maker changes. So it feels like we're going into a chapter as a supplier. I feel like we're probably going into our biggest kind of deal flow opportunity over the next 2 years that I'll probably see in my career. So we're being really aggressive right now. That starts with customer service and making sure that your industry reputation is as shiny clean as you can make it. I think Steve and Mariah are correct. As long as you kind of have your lines in the water, the opportunities pop up. They just do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to comment on this also. And I just want to piggyback on Mariah's sentiments around the community. That comment very much aligns with our mission at FEXA. It's our goal to become an essential foundation to the success of the community, not just our customers, not just our direct stakeholders, but to the overall community. And I think that's boded really well for our company, because when you involve yourself with the community and you're out to provide value, not just sell a service, people recognize that. And, speaking to the other fellow supplier on this call, Grant, I actually was talking with one of Grant's customers earlier this week who was raving about the service that they received from Authority HVAC. And clearly, I'm not in the market to hire a company like Grant, but it's nice to know that Grant has a great reputation and as a company has a great reputation. And so getting involved with those communities, making sure you're leveraging those relationships. And that actually kind of piggybacks into one of my follow-up questions for you all, which is relationships and vendors and how, it takes two to tango, right? This work that we do is far from transactional, right? It's very much relationship based and so on and so forth. And it's really important that it's not commoditized. And often right now, with some of the consolidation and what you just mentioned, Grant, is also very much a trend, right? Consolidation. Not all facilities managers have returned. Some people are now responsible for additional roles within their company, and it's more important than ever to leverage those relationships to ensure that your buildings are getting the attention that they deserve, and your customers and your stakeholders are getting the experience they deserve. I'd be curious, and I put this question out to the group as far as, how do you generally lean on your community? What's the value? And of course, I guess I could guess at some of your answers, but the value of those relationships, how has that gotten you through the last 6 months, and how do you expect that's going to get you through the next foreseeable future? And I'll start with you, Mariah, if you don't mind, since you brought up the point about community.
Absolutely. I mean, I have been, very upfront with everybody in my entire career, especially with Connex, that Connex has helped me build my career. And, I love Grant's point about building those relationships and, kind of creating those raving fans, as people talked about. Your reputation precedes you and it follows you. And, we all know that this industry is ever changing. I've jumped jobs a couple of times, and, Steve has as well. And, it really is about who you are, more so than even what you do necessarily. So making sure that those two things align, that your actions, really follow you, and that you're being, your best self to both sides, really. I've heard horror stories as well about, our suppliers who are like, hey, I can't get the time of day from anybody, and they won't answer my calls, and they, are rude to me and things like that, and vice versa. And, I would just put a call out to the entire community to be nice to each other, especially during these times. We all have goals and opportunities and different priorities, and we don't know what each other are thinking. So, reply to those supplier emails, make sure that you're in contact with people, reach out and build that network and community. To Steve's point, you don't know when that relationship is going to be called to order. And, and I call Steve all the time. I call Grant, I call my friends in the industry if I need something. And I think that's what one of the biggest benefits of Connex is that we're a community, we're a network. And, and that's what we're here for is, it's not just about the work tickets that come in and the jobs that are done. It's really about us being a part of the community and helping each other during times like this. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, excellent. Steve?
So Kim, let me add something. So not that I can add too much to what Mariah said. So I think she hit it spot on, but a couple things. So first of all, you want to have that relationship. So when I call a supplier at 5 o'clock on a Friday night on a holiday weekend with an emergency, I want to hang up the phone and know that I don't have to worry about it all weekend, right? So it's definitely that relationship matters. Mm-hmm. The second thing I'll add, so there are a lot of companies that have procurement, and the facilities team doesn't necessarily source their vendors, right? Or you end up going through some type of procurement event, and as a supplier, you're on the losing side, right? Mm-hmm. I would say there's roads you can take. There's the high road and the low road. You never know when your paths are going to cross again. You don't want to burn a bridge. Right? There are some things that are just completely out of our control, and relationships end to some degree, right? Or the current business relationship ends. Don't burn that bridge. Take the high road. You never know when your paths are going to cross again.
Yeah, great advice.
Kim, I've got one more thing to
Yeah.
maybe tack onto that also that I think doesn't get the credit it deserves around the communities. And I think we're pretty well networked with a lot of our peers inside the HVAC side. So a lot of these people are our competitors, but we're on friendly terms with them. We swap gossip on what our customers are doing and things like that. We know who to avoid. So it
Yeah.
actually, it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
And we've established really good friends with peers in the door company or the exterior lighting company and the paving guys, the fire equipment companies and people like that. And it's just getting to know like what they go through and who their customer base is and what they're kind of experiencing or being challenged with. A lot of times we get good industry intelligence, but then a lot of times we're stealing notes all the time on things that we're like, oh, that's a good idea. We need to be doing that in our company. And then it's those changes that we turn around and make internally that actually make us a much more marketable company.
Yes. What's that saying? A rising tide lifts all boats.
That's right.
Got it.
Watching that.
Yep.
But it's so true, and that is the value of a community. If you think about the facilities maintenance industry as a whole and all of the members that participate within that industry, you can only benefit from each other. Yes, of course, there's going to be healthy competition, right? Of course, there's going to be goals that you have that you might not share. But at the end of the day, the ultimate goal for everyone who's participating in this community is for the benefit of each other, because without each other, if we've got some broken, if we've got some broken or burnt bridges, to use your terms, Steve, that doesn't do anybody any good. And so you've got to have the best of intentions when entering in this business. Your reputation really is everything, and you've got to have genuine intentions. It can't be success for one group at the expense of another. There really needs to be a nice, even-keeled approach with that. So that's great. All
I
right.
could land
Yeah.
with all this great advertisement for Connex, but our panelists are hinting at this, which is great. And they weren't asked to do that directly, but even during this time when we don't have the in-person meetings and we're only having town halls virtually, there are literally dozens of ways to continue to get involved in connections, whether it is the communities, whether it's still volunteering, writing articles. So just check out the opportunities at Connex. It can keep you in front of potential clients, even during these toughest of times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mariah just mentioned it, right? Use the forums. The people are looking at those forums. If you want to get noticed, that's a good way to do it. So interact with your colleagues. Thanks, Bill. So we've got a few questions. Good. We've prompted some great discussion here. Lots of questions. So this is from Matt Race. Matt, it's nice to see you. With the ever-changing criteria and symptoms that surround COVID, what reliable resources or knowledge centers do you refer to ensure you have the most recent and accurate data to relay to your teams and or make provisions to your sites? That's a great question. Steve, Mariah, which one of you wants to go first? Steve, should we start with you?
Doesn't everybody just refer to like Facebook for the facts?
I'm sorry, we don't refer to fake news, Steve.
If it's on, it's got to be true, right?
It's got to be true if it's on Facebook.
So ASRAE is a good resource. The person that I've got that manages HVAC for public storage that reports up through me frequents their website and has found some great resources there regarding, what is fact and what is not. So that would be my 2 cents.
Can you repeat that, Steve? I didn't quite catch it.
The ASRAE
Okay.
website.
Okay, awesome. And we can share that with in the chat too. Thanks, Steve. Mariah, do you have somewhere where you go?
Yeah, and I think I kind of referenced this before. We stay connected to the CDC website quite a bit, especially being healthcare. And so I was able to help work with, kind of my internal teammates to put forth a janitorial recommendation for our clinics through the use of some of the CDC guidelines and links. So I think that's one of the things that I was probably a little bit frustrated with at the start of COVID, is that we had a lot of people kind of coming out of the woodwork, including some of our own preferred partners, that said, hey, you need, spray disinfectants, you need this, you need that, you need heightened care, we're already healthcare. We're already bleaching the heck out of ourselves. And so we've increased our volume. We've done some of these other things, but we don't have to go to extreme. We don't need men in hazmat suits or women in hazmat suits coming to our clinic. And, for our equipment, we actually can't have spray disinfectants. And so there are some of those things that we need to know and understand, and we need to make sure that we're not escalating issues unnecessarily during this time as well. So really staying focused on, on those recommendations specifically from the CDC has been very important.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, those resources are very helpful. Are you finding yourselves changing things often, or is it, every so often? It's just kind of kind of reinforcing what you're already doing is correct and kind of keeping eyes on it just in case something needs to change. Okay, so it's really not
a lot of reinforcement, reinforcement. It's like anything else. You tell somebody once and you got to tell them 16 more times. And so it's, putting out the documentation, reinforcing that internally and externally with our vendor partners. There really is a lot of reinforcement. And then obviously, most people probably realize that not a lot has changed in the CDC guidelines, a few tweaks here and there. But for the most part, it's really just about reiterating what is best and what is proper. And that's really where our focus has been.
Yeah, that's great. So Grant, this is not the same question, but sort of a related question, because I know you've been doing a lot of work in regards to indoor air quality and some of the new, the new initiatives surrounding that. And there's been a lot of progressive companies doing some interesting things. Do you mind speaking to that? Because it might not be directly related with what the guidelines are, but certainly it's a big initiative.
So our space has been pretty busy, and there was kind of an explosion of information that took place in April and May around the airborne pathogens, how to properly remediate them. There's a slew of products and technologies that people were throwing around and things like that. There wasn't, it felt a little chaotic. Steve correctly points out that ASHRAE provides really the best guidance around that. And the ASHRAE guidance can really be distilled down into increased ventilation, higher filtration, UV lighting, a couple of other things. Basically, there's some aspects to that are not going to be practical for everybody, and so it's going to be kind of an interesting 6 or 12 months because some people may not have the money or the budget for that. Obviously, just being in indoor spaces, being masked up and distance and things like that is really the best protocol at the end of the day. But there will be kind of an interesting question, if and when this ends, maybe the second half of 2021, which is, do we learn a little bit more about indoor air quality? Do we realize that what we're breathing isn't necessarily that healthy, and that we spend most of our lives inside these buildings that were built to be energy efficient, but they weren't built to actually keep us healthy. It's just recirculating a lot of the same stuff in the air all the time. So I think the smart people around the industry are actually doing a lot more. They're asking more questions right now than I think than there are firm conclusions.
Yeah, yep. I think that's definitely something to watch, right? Mariah and Steve, do you have any experience with, talking about the air quality and have you made any decisions, or are you looking into it?
More so for us about air circulation, making sure that, we've got some BMS systems so we can remotely monitor and manage a lot of our units. And so making sure that the right cycles are happening. We're probably pretty lucky out there in the industry too, where we've got in-house technicians. A lot of our technicians are trained on light MEP, including HVAC maintenance and filter changes. Yep. So it's really nice for us to be able to get out there and do that on our own and really stay forefront and not have to wait for external vendor partners to come in and help us with that. So yeah, we definitely are focused on air exchanges more so.
Yep.
Yeah, and to piggyback on Mariah's comment, I mentioned earlier that we've kind of got some unique situations where we've got roughly, I think 1,500 locations that have an apartment and a shared office HVAC system. And we've had to go back and at those locations on a case-by-case basis, separate the air handling systems and ensure that if we do have a COVID positive situation in either the apartment, whether it's the manager or, somebody in the manager's family, that we're not, spreading that air into the office where customers and, and other associates would then become infected. So we've kind of taken an approach outside of ensuring that those systems are separate. To Grant's point, people kind of came out of the woodwork in the beginning of this with all kinds of different solutions to how to combat the virus. So we've kind of taken a wait and see approach to it, and really just making sure that the air handling systems are separate has been our focus.
Just to add a note to Steve, Kim, so the joker in the deck is if and when a vaccine takes place. If there's a vaccine and people are vaccinated and this gets behind us, is indoor air quality still important to people? It might be, or it could just be, all right, we're everyone's safe and happy again, and we're just going to kind of go back to the conventional, HVAC model.
Yeah, Grant, out of curiosity, the immediate thing that I thought of when you said that was the fires. So many of our colleagues right now are stuck inside because of the air quality in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest. And Mother Nature's not going to stop sending us fires and hurricanes and all of the tornadoes, all the things that, sort of put an end to that safety net that we think we can just, go for a run outside, and we obviously can't. So has that come up at all, especially given the recent events?
Well, I think if anything, it might come up in some other verticals. Healthcare is definitely one of them. If you think about education, all of our kids are in these old school buildings to a large degree, that are running on these legacy HVAC systems. Hospitality, restaurant chains, places that hinge on indoor dining and things like that. That's all going to matter a lot. Whether the wildfires, I think, affect a lot of things. I'm not sure if they affect indoor air quality directly, but it's probably safe to say that we're going to have more fires in our lifetime, and it's probably safe to say that this might not be the only virus situation we have in our lifetime. Although I pray it is the last time we deal with it.
I hope so. I think we've been through enough. Yes, understood. And related to the fires, we actually have a question from Steve McKeon. This one's directed toward Mariah. How are the forest fires affecting your locations in the West?
Yeah, we are still working through treating patients. Obviously, that's our priority. So making sure that we have more filter changes, making sure that we've got our generators and backup generators and fuel for the generators running, because obviously there's some rolling, brownouts and blackouts that are happening. Thankfully, we've been able to work with the different municipalities too and make sure that, we're not shut down, because we are critical care like hospitals. And so a lot of it is really in working with the communities and making sure that we try to stay a step ahead of where the fires are coming and what's happening, and also have backup plans to transfer our patients to other facilities if needed. So it's really, a very active, engaged process, but that also happens even now with the hurricanes.
Yeah. Double whammy.
Yeah.
Whammy. Steve, are you having to react to the fires at all?
So knock on wood, we've only got a couple locations that have been impacted by that, but it's about keeping people safe, like Mariah talks about.
Absolutely. All right, great. Well, we have a few more questions in the box. This is great. Keep those questions coming. From Dwayne Miller. He is saying that there are national facilities companies, and they've been having some challenges with some trades going into certain kinds of businesses because of the infection. And specifically for Mariah, since you're in healthcare, are you seeing this regionally? And then for the rest of the panel, are you having any challenges getting your vendors to perform? Mariah, we'll start with you.
It's a great question. And honestly, no, I thankfully have not had a lot of issues. In the beginning, there were some concerns about contractors going in and what is the protocol, even some of our janitorial companies, what are your internal protocols to keep our staff safe when we go in? And, honestly, I think for most supplier partners is they probably are not as afraid maybe to go into healthcare because we do have such high cleanliness standards. I mean, we bleach, like I said, we bleach the heck out of everything. We're going to a 1 in 100 bleach solution from our typical 1 in 100 to our 1 in 10 where needed. We have extra protocols to clean. Our teammates are really on top of things. And then we also have the double masking policy and the regular PPE. So our patients have to wear masks. Our teammates have to wear masks. And so we're just trying to be really, really safe that way. And most of our work, the majority of our work is done after patient treatment hours as well. So it hits my pocketbook a little bit harder to work after hours, but it's a lot safer for both sides to do our facility maintenance business after patients have done treating for the day.
Yeah, that's great. Steve, how about you? Have you had any trouble getting vendors on site, or have you had any issue?
No, I think early on there was probably, I would say, confusion around, are we requiring masks? Are we not requiring masks? Vendors would up where they didn't have it, but that was for a very short period of time. I think once the country, for the most part, got on board with social distancing and masks, that we haven't had any problem with any vendors either showing up not prepared or not wanting to show up. There are a handful of vendors out there that, when we send a work order out, they are requesting that we confirm that there have been no known COVID positive cases, for any employees on site. And, our offices are, when you think about traditional retail, you think about anywhere from a 20,000 square foot space to 100,000 square foot space in some of the bigger boxes. We've got some offices that are like, less than 500 square feet. Like they're just little offices. So to have, yeah, exactly. So to have a property manager and then, a vendor in that same space, it may make them a little nervous, but for the most part, we haven't had any major problems. Everybody's kind of been to the mask, social distancing, mask up.
Yeah, I think especially given the, some of the regulations that have come out more formally from, the leadership in the respective states and, has helped because then, you're mandated to wear masks inside. And so then there's no question as far as safety goes. So related to social distancing, we have a question from Bobby Joe from Identity. She said she's found her clients are being tasked with prioritizing back to work signage, encouraging safe social distancing to provide a safe environment to both the consumer and to the employees. What are some of the ways, Mariah and Steve, that you're incorporating this new messaging into existing facilities while also maintaining the same feel and the same experience that your clients used to? That's a great question. Steve, I'll start with you because I have a feeling your answer might be sort of short with that, because how much signage can you really invest in the type of space that you operate, right?
The good news is we are an essential business, so we didn't shut down, so we don't have any back to work type signage, but we do have the pretty much, I would call it at this point, the standard social distancing signage, right? So there's only so many ways to say keep your distance. So we've incorporated that into our office spaces and in the front of the office, and in some cases we've really leveraged technology. We've implemented an online rental agreement that we kind of fast tracked out. It was in a test phase, and we kind of fast tracked that out to a number of properties, and customers are using that. So honestly, our signage, fortunately for us, has just been minimal.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mariah, have you done anything special with your signage?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have had to send out wear a mask signage to be posted, at the clinics. We also have our social distancing spacing markers on the floor for people who are in waiting rooms. We have had to message out, at least initially, that we used to be able to have the patients family or a support person come in, and that's had to be scaled back a little bit. So there's been some, corporate messaging about what that looks like and how we're intending to keep people safe. But for the most part, it's been pretty good. We've had to stay open. Additionally to that, we actually screen everybody that comes into the clinic. So you're given a face mask to wear. Patients are asked to bring theirs and wear those. But we have to answer questions, have we had any symptoms, all those kind of things, and we get our temperature checked. So from that standpoint, there's a heavier lift from our teammates on site to make sure that everybody who's passing through our doors is safe and can be on our facilities.
Yeah, awesome.
So these all these YouTube videos where the stores are turning away the angry old lady who doesn't want to wear a mask might be my favorite form of entertainment in 2020. I think I've watched all of them. I love them. I think 80% of them take place where I live here in Arizona. So I'll be actually really sorry. That's one thing I'll miss when this whole thing is over.
Well, those YouTube videos will live on forever, Grant. So you can
I hope
also,
so.
if you ever need a laugh, you
I'll
can
watch
go
them
back
on a
and find
loop.
them.
Yep.
So that's actually a nice, lighthearted question. We've got heavy jobs, right? We have the safety of our customers, our employees, of our colleagues, of the greater community really lies on our shoulders to execute appropriately. And clearly, we don't do it alone, right? We've got those relationships we talked about. We also have, depending on your company, you're leaning a lot on interdepartments and you're planning together. But it's been really exciting to see that, facilities managers have a seat at the table now and are really driving a lot of the discussion. And that's super cool. But on a lighthearted note, Grant, you like to watch videos of old women refusing to put masks on. Mariah and Steve, how do you sort of unwind from, the pressure of, everything that we do and the safety of others looming on our shoulders as far as execution goes? What kind of things have you enjoyed doing to escape? Let's start with you, Mariah.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks. So, for me, what I find to be exciting is one of the core values for DaVita is fun. It was intentionally put into one of our 7 core values to have fun. And, I think one of the things that's hard is that, as you're masked, it's really hard to see expression, when you have your face covered. And so I love that the teammates, locally in the clinics are all about fun and engagement, and, they'll sing and they'll dance. And we've got, operations folks that will show up in chicken suits delivering, Chick-fil-A or whatever it is. And it's just really fun to be a part of that and a part of a community that supports that, so that we can continue to keep that high level of engagement and keep patients treating. So for me, it's less about the cat videos or the Karens of the world, grants, but it's more about looking at internally to our company and seeing what new innovative fun things our teammates have come up with to help entertain themselves and our patients. Yeah,
that's great. I love that. Steve?
So aside from the new virtual happy hours, this has kind of been an interesting situation for me. So anybody that's worked with me or knows me that knows that I'm not a work from home kind of person. So my comfort zone was in my office and at my desk and, with everything laid out in front of me, right? Like that was my comfort zone. So this whole working from home has really, in the beginning, it was really a struggle for me. So then trying to separate my home life and my work life, like the line was more, for me personally, was more blurred just because of that mindset, right? So if I ever wanted to work, my team knew that if I had stuff to get done over a weekend, they could find me in the office on a Saturday from 10 to 2, right? I wasn't typically working at home. So for me, with those lines being blurred, like I really have to be intentional to walk away from it and get myself from a mindset perspective out of work mode. So like I said, virtual hours and connecting with friends, virtually has been a big part of it. Binge watching on Netflix has also been a big part of it. But yeah.
I think we could have a whole separate town hall just on what people are binge watching right now. That would actually be really entertaining. When Bill, you want to put that on the books? Let's get that on the books.
Will do.
Yeah, something that you said, Mariah, prompted my thought as far as some things that we're doing at FEXA too, which are a lot of fun and keep us all engaged. We're used to seeing each other more often. And so a couple of things, and actually I was just on a call earlier, we were mentioning the same thing. On we've got a weekly corporate call where everyone is on video and everyone in the company is talking through what their team's doing and sort of an update. And the different employees of our company will have sort of a secret competition behind Zoom backgrounds and how clever their Zoom backgrounds can be. And our product owner, Connor McKee, I'll give him a little shout out. He's awesome. One of my favorite ones was he put a video of a roller coaster behind him and he sat on a yoga ball during the meeting. So he was bouncing and you could see the roller coaster go behind him. And I just could not stop laughing, the whole time during the meeting, I just couldn't stop laughing every time I'd see him because, he's just bouncing along on the roller coaster. We've had some really clever ones. So that fun component is so important, finding the time to laugh. Our jobs are so serious these days, we just have so much to think about and plan for and worry about, and adding those components of fun are always great. So we've got about 5 minutes left. We have time for really one more question. And before I pass it over to Bill, I guess I would just ask you all to speak briefly as far as the value of Connex. I think, we're going to end it off on a positive note for Connex. And we all have had such positive experiences with Connex being board members. But if you could just share a little bit about, maybe a Connex success story or something specific around your experience with Connex and leveraging the community here. Grant, I'll start with you.
There's two things that come to mind right off the bat. The first of which was I really learned how important Connex is when the pandemic hit. And I was watching the message boards and the communication going around the community between suppliers, between multi-site facility managers, and swapping information, swapping stories. And then even when we went through the riots a couple months later, I mean, we're overlooking, there was like another crazy thing that happened in the middle of the year. So we shut stores down, then we opened them up, then we boarded them up again, and then the boards came off. So the support and the way information was exchanged between suppliers, buyers, everybody was really inspiring. Just in Bill and his team, the way they rolled out PPE information to the front lines and things like that. That was maybe as impressive as a show as I've seen as our industry in a long time. So I think that's the main thing. And to that earlier point about like how do I get business from these the retailers, or how do I get in line and things like that. I think it's the small stuff like that. If you're participating in that and you're contributing, it's not as much about what you're talking about your company as if you're showing who you are as a professional and as a person, then they might get interested in your company along the way.
Yeah, sounds good. Real quick answers. We're just at about time, but Mariah, do you want to go next?
So my answer will be short. So, Connex has helped me realize over the years that it doesn't matter who you work for, what big name you may have behind your name, right? You don't know everything. You don't always do it all the right way. The relationships that I've formed at Connex and with other multi-sites I've been able to pick things up that other people are doing and be able to bring them back to the companies I've worked for, and that has really paid dividends. Like, those relationships are really important to me.
Awesome. Mariah?
Yeah, I would kind of say ditto to all of that and everything we've talked about. And the other big thing that I'm looking forward to coming out of Connex, and specifically from Grant Baker, is, if you guys don't know him, he's got great Grant-isms, we on the board call them. And so we're excited about the book that's going to come out. So
there's a book coming. There's a book coming. The Joker in the deck.
You'll get my I'll have a free autographed copy for everybody in this town hall.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, panelists, so much. Bill, can you give us a quick update on Connex before we adjourn?
Yeah, Ro, thanks for a great job today to the panel. Thanks for our audience. I think this will turn out to be our largest audience of one of these yet. We do these monthly. And each month we've done these, we've announced something new as we are going from an association that's in survival mode to hopefully we're moving forward and forward thinking. So one big announcement is we are forming what we're calling a food and beverage council. And so we already have a significant number of grocery members, and we have members in the food and beverage industries as well, FMs suppliers. And so stay tuned for that. Our own Karen Schreiner is going to be our inaugural chair with Weiss Markets. And so we already have a fearless leader, and stay tuned for that. And the second thing is, in these perilous times, it's so great to partner with other industry partners, and Connex is with ICSC. So on the 7th and 8th of October, we have a products and services showcase, a virtual trade show partnership for the first time ever with ICSC. Check out connexfm.com to register for that. I believe a booth is $500 for our suppliers, and there is no cost to attend for our FMs from Connex. And so I'll end with one last thanks to Steve, Mariah, Grant, and our fearless moderator, Kim, who I owe 2 drinks to now.
keeping track.
I will have that coin taped to me at our next town hall. And for everyone out there, thank you for joining us for our town hall. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.